Warm greetings to one and all. My name is Amit Rai. I am a research scholar affiliated with Indian Institute of Teacher Education, Gandhinagar, under the guidance of Professor Prerna Shelat ma'am. Title for today's presentation is Interplay of Psycholinguistics and Vocabulary Acquisition in EASL, that is English as Second Language. Now, for the ease of my presentation and better understanding, I would be starting with the keywords of my title, that is Psycholinguistics. As psycholinguistics studies how our mind works with language, that is, how it acquires, comprehends, produces, and perceives any language in oral and or in written form. It is more concerned with cognitive faculties and processes which are important for the language skills or grammar or structure part and even the vocabulary. Then vocabulary, which is, we all know, a significant indicator of both one's language learning and one's ability to learn language, that is basic skills or strategies that one makes for his own understanding or learning of any new language. Now, a variety and range of English teaching situations prevail here in India, and due to the twin factors of teachers' proficiency in English and pupils' exposure to English outside school, that is at their home. And it goes without saying that ELT has thus been progressively gaining ground since the Macaulay Minutes in 1935 to the current NEP 2020. And besides all this, after the due review of the related literature, it can be said that there's still dire need among ESL learners to learn words in much more easier, faster, more enjoyable, more self-directed manner. Hence, here in the paper, I am specifically focusing on psycholinguistic aspect of vocabulary acquisition with regard to ESL. Now, when it comes to psycholinguistics and language acquisition, psycholinguistics covers three main points: language production, language perception, and language acquisition. Now, as the word itself suggests, production or the language production means expression part, how we present whatever we have learnt in a language, be it oral or written form. Language perception means the interpreting and understanding of the language. And finally, the language acquisition refers to the processes of acquiring a native or a second language. The gist of language acquisition is it should happen naturally or intuitively, just like our mother tongues, without any more effort from the learner's point. Now, psycholinguistics comes into the picture after much of research and scientific base, because when neurolinguistics took some brain imaging and MRI, they found that several specific areas of the brain play important roles in both language production and comprehension. Two of the main areas of our brain, that repetitively came into the literature related to these studies were Broca's area and Wernicke's area. Broca's area, which lies in the frontal lobes, deal with language structures, whereas Wernicke's area, which comes in the temporal region, addresses schema and semantic coherence or meaning. I would be displaying the picture in the upcoming slide. But before that, let us discuss how these two areas, Broca and Wernicke, function, or which particular area deals with what functions of the language. Now, most of the linguists have described these processes, or they have distributed them in two parts. First being top-down processes, which are mostly known as information output, when language knowledge as well as schemas are used in top-down processes to convey messages through words arranged in sentences, phrases, and even in non-verbal cues. And we must always remember that both top-down and bottom-up processes cannot be divided or separated or looked as a separate entity, as they both work hand in hand. They are inseparable because they are in a way help or collaborate together to function language production and comprehension for us in both language reception and production. From the psycholinguistic perspective, the Wernicke's and Broca's areas are involved in top-down processes. Firstly, before language is produced, the abstract meanings are formulated in sentences. And then Broca's area directs the necessary body parts to produce the meaning, be it orally or in written form. For example, if Broca area wants to convey the language in oral form, then it would direct the glottal area and nasal area or lungs to inhale air, fill the air in our lungs, and then the exhaling part, and then to form words, and finally to articulate a desired message. Similarly, if the Broca area would expect us to present the message or communicate in written form, then it would direct the fingers muscles to form the particular characters on paper. And now we can easily understand that if any of these two parts, Wernicke's or Broca, is not functioning properly or is damaged, then we would have a slurred speech or sloppy writing. That is, we would fail to convey our message orally or written in easily understandable manner. As I said earlier, now comes bottom-up processes, and again I am saying that these two processes are not separate entities. They work together and they are helping each other to present a common message or common output, that is language. These are the processes that deal with information input, that is through our sensory, motor or senses. Whatever we take in, it classifies and filters those messages and present them to the outer world in a much more clear manner. The top-down processes can thus be seen as a means of preventing information overload. So it is like a folder in our brain. Thus, the bottom-up processes are especially important in language acquisition, which is the focus point of my paper. Now, mostly we come across language learning and language acquisition. These two are altogether different terms which are also scientifically backed up in most of the studies that I came across during the review of related literature for the present paper. The difference between language learning and acquisition is not just theory, it's something which people notice when neurologists look at it with various brain imaging techniques. Some of the brain area which I earlier mentioned, Broca and Wernicke's namely, they performed differently or they were more prominently active in several language tasks. One is Broca's area, which is active while the individual is performing language acquisition tasks, that is, intuitively grasping the meanings, relating it with our previous experiences, previous word acknowledgements, and then the other is Wernicke's area, which is active for analytic tasks more in the lines with language learning, that is grammatical part, structure, etc. Now this is the picture displaying the particular area of these two parts located in our brain, Broca and Wernicke. Now, based on this understanding, students or with the help of teacher, learners develop their own vocabulary learning strategies, that is different techniques and learning styles or patterns of their own. Now, the earliest investigation of vocabulary learning strategies that I found was conducted by Stoffer. Actually, he prepared an inventory containing 9 categories under which several other activities were clubbed, namely strategies involving authentic language use, strategies used for self-motivation wherein more recapitulation or repetition would be happening, strategies used for organizing words, that is schema or word mapping and similar activities, strategies used to create mental linkages, and then memory strategies to memorize several rules or words, strategies involving creative activities like making up sentences or relating it with some images in their mind and later on recalling it, strategies involving physical action like action song maybe, or listen and do, and other such activities, strategies used to overcome anxiety of the learner's part, and auditory strategies were namely the 9 categories. Later on, the other study which I found was Smith's taxonomy of VLS, that is vocabulary learning strategy, that came in 1997. He also presented a comprehensive list of VLS into which he adopted the earlier list of Oxford, but mainly there are 4 categories of these strategies, namely social, memory, cognitive, and metacognitive. When it comes to categorization, he presented 6 main groups with 58 individual strategies in total. The 6 categories are discovery determination strategies, wherein the learners analyze part of his speech and try to check on his own the first language cognate or synonyms, and finds word meanings from bilingual and monolingual dictionaries. Second, discovery social strategies, where the learner asks teacher or his fellow students for the translation, or he tries to discover the new meanings on his own during the group work activities. Consolidating the social strategies. Now, whatever he must have discovered in social strategy, here he studies and practices in group and interact with native speakers of the language and consolidates the discovered learnings. Fourth is consolidating memory strategies, wherein the words are learnt with the help of pictorial representations, videos, images, Pictionary, connecting word to personal experiences, connecting the word to its synonyms and antonyms, semantic maps. Now, two of the interesting style which I was not earlier aware were peg word method, wherein rhyming with numbers or the particular style to recall learnt word in an order is called peg word method. The other one is Loki method, where the memory journey is traveled by the learner in his mind, wherein he specifically recalls several names of things by locating them at particular positions or locations. Then there are some group words, using words in sentences or putting them in a storyline. Fifth one is consolidating cognitive strategies, wherein more of repetition and second language labels on physical objects that we mostly find in ESL classrooms practiced today. Being a language teacher myself at upper primary level, I find most of my fellow teachers here in state who label physical objects and classroom things in second language, so that students can easily recall the words or add on to their word bank. Last one is consolidating metacognitive strategies, wherein second language media or TLMs are used and the learners test themselves with word tests or the jumble words or completion of spelling and other such activities. So these are the vocabulary learning strategies based on the functioning of our brain and how psycholinguistics plays an important role when it comes to vocabulary acquisition or learning a new language. Now, based on the discussion up till or presentation up till now, it can easily be said that these vocabulary learning strategies are very important for second language learners in our today's classroom, because mainly it would enable them to attain autonomy and students can take charge of their own learning. They would be able to do vocabulary acquisition on their own and at their own pace. Thus, vocabulary acquisition can be efficiently handled while involving sensory skills of children, like actively using pictures, pictorial illustrations, visuals, dance, action songs, role plays, rhymes, poems, language games revolving around more of repetition and recapitulation like crossword puzzle, etc. In most of the studies, several other detailed studies were also found like picture word inductive model where pictures were used for learning of new words. Hence, we can say that their active involvement can be ensured students and both students and language teachers involvement can be ensured with more relatable and enjoyable references to make the vocabulary acquisition long lasting. Finally, I would like to end my presentation with this quote that every language is a temple in which the soul of those who speak it is enshrined, because every learner must relate with the language that is happening in the classroom. Thank you all.